Sonic, the heart of your system.
What's up everybody, my name's Andy and welcome to Kit Guru. So today we're looking at the ASUS ROG Gladius 2 Origin. Yeah. Which is the third mouse in their Gladius range, and it's optimized for FPS. Now this mouse is retailing in the UK currently for $74.99, so it's definitely aimed at the sort of prosumer market. The high-end gamer is the target audience here. So let's just jump straight in and look at the aesthetics of this mouse. So straight away, you can see it is designed for the right-handed user. So it's specifically molded to be ergonomic for the right hand. So it's made out of molded plastic. And again, it's got that nice sort of finish that you don't get fingerprints on. Now this is a classic ASUS gunmetal gray with black accents mouse. And the left and right clicks are molded sort of for your fingers, and they're separate from the main body. They do slightly overhang over the sort of front end there. Now on the sides feature Mayan patterned rubber grips. They're really nice, and they're sort of molded on each side, and it's also featured on the scroll wheel there. So it is a really nice pattern. It's very tactile and it actually feels really nice in the hand as well. Now it does have an aggressive sort of fin design right on the front, and I think overall this mouse really does fit the ASUS brand well, because you know, all of their stuff screams gamer because it comes under the ROG Republic of Gamers section. Now there is 3 RGB zones on this mouse. You've got the ROG logo on the sort of lower back end where most logos are found on mice. You've got the scroll wheel, and you've also got sort of a RGB ring that sort of encompasses the whole base of the mouse as well. Now these RGB sections are very, very vibrant, which is a nice plus. All of these RGB sections feature Aura Sync, so they can be matched to other ASUS products if you are in that ecosystem. Jumping over to size and design, it weighs in at a hefty 110 grams without the cable, which we'll be looking at a bit later. So the dimensions are 126 millimeters long, a width of 67 millimeters, and a height of 45 millimeters. Now, as it's a right-handed design, it definitely does slope to the right to sort of, you know, fit that ergonomic design there. The left-hand side has a molded indent for thumb comfort. And now this is super molded. It's not just sort of indented. It's as if it's actually, you know, molded to your thumb, and it feels brilliant, to be perfectly honest. It feels a lot nicer than some other right-handed mice. It is ergonomic and comfortable, even for me, and I've got sort of small to medium hands, because I would class this mouse as a large mouse. So I'd say overall it's going to be good for most hand sizes. Maybe if you've got really tiny hands, and this probably won't be for you. But if we move over to grip styles, now fingertip grip I found fit perfectly. These Mayan rubber texture grips really like helped you get a good sort of purchase on the mouse there, and I thought that worked really well. Being slightly larger, the claw grip worked really well as well, because you could get that sort of base of the mouse into your palm, and the rest of your fingers could get round to those molded left and right clicks as well. And I would even say the same applies to palm grip, and I'd say you don't really get much pinky drag on this, and this is where I find with palm grip, often my little finger will drag around on the desk or the mat, and I don't really find it happens that much with this one. It's just a tiny bit, but not really. So overall, I'm really happy with how this fits most grip styles, because lots of other mice seem to sort of be lacking in 1 or 2 areas. You know, they're normally designed for a certain style. Now moving to the left and right buttons, these are actually separate from the main shell, so these require less actuation force, which leads to a faster response. And in practice, you know, it feels like it's doing something. Now, one thing that they specify with this mouse that's not often seen is that they specify the integration with an Alps encoded scroll wheel, which basically means that it's got really, really good durability and longevity. Now, obviously, I can't really say my opinions on this because I haven't used it for months and months and months and months to see if, you know, it does stand the test of time, but really I've never had a mouse wheel fail on me before. So it does have 8 programmable buttons if you include the scroll up and scroll down, and it does have a single DPI button on the top, not the dual, so you've got a single press to switch between 2 separate settings that you can program via the software. Now, this is where this mouse gets a little bit more fun for the enthusiast, which is its target audience after all. So it comes pre-installed with 2 Omron switches, which of course are rated at 50 million clicks. But if you do wear those out for any means, you've got Japanese-made Omron spares that are included in the box, and these are fairly easy to change. So on the base, you've got 4 rubber bungs that you can pull out, and then you've got screws there. Take those out, the top shell sort of pulls off, and then you can pull the Omron switches out and swap them over. Just make sure you get them in the right way round. Now, moving over to the cord, this is actually detachable and it's locked in, so there's no sort of worry about it yanking out if you drop your mouse or something like that. It's actually got a little sort of switch on the base there that you can take it out. But that's not the only thing to mention. You've got 2 cables included in the box, and they actually come in a really nice ROG pouch, which is definitely a nice feature. But you've got 2 separate cables. You've got a 2 meter braided, which in my opinion is pretty stiff. It doesn't sort of lay flat. You have to sort of give it a bit of a wiggle to get it where you want it to. You've also got a 1 meter rubber cable, which is pliable. The idea behind this is that you keep the 2 meter plugged into your desk, so the braided one, and then you leave the 1 meter in the pouch for if you're sort of going to move to a LAN party or, you know, go to a cafe or something like that, you can pull that out. Now, in my opinion, this is a great idea, and I really like the fact that they've included 2. Because some people have preferences for rubber or braided, the only downside here is that it would have been nice for both cables to be 2 meters, because then you've got the choice as which is your main cable, because the 1 meter I found wasn't long enough for my setup, and it comes down to personal preference. But if you prefer the rubber cables, you're really not going to have much room for use there. Let's look at the underneath next. So when you look on the underneath, it's a fairly simplistic design. You've got 4 absolutely tiny raised PTFE pads for, you know, easy gliding, and they work absolutely fine. I won't bash them to be honest, but generally you find sort of larger ones there. Now, you also can see on the top left-hand corner that you've got the cable lock switch, so don't be trying to remove the cable without depressing that first. You've got 4 concealed screws underneath those rubber bungs that I mentioned earlier, and overall it works well. You've got your important information there, and that's all the base really needs, isn't it? So let's talk about build quality. So there's minimal rattle from this mouse, which is really quite nice. I mean, all my scroll wheels do have a little tiny bit of jiggle, but that's to be expected. But other than that, all the buttons are very sort of sturdy, and there's not much rattle there at all. So there's no flex in the main shell either, and due to the fact that it is pretty heavy, it does give it quite a premium feel. Now, one thing I do like to see here is that all the edges are nice and smooth, so they're not rough at all. Overall on build quality, I'd say there's not really any issues here, but for the price point of £75, I'd expect nothing less, to be perfectly honest. So I was going to talk about the sensor next, but I've just noticed something. Did anyone see this here before? Strange. Let's put them over here so we can continue with the review. So sensor-wise, ASUS have opted for the PixArt PMW 3360, which is an advanced optical sensor. Now, this natively holds 12,000 DPI. It's got 50G acceleration. It's got 250 IPS, so inches per second, and it's got a 1000 Hertz polling rate. So you've got some excellent specs there. And again, as I mentioned right at the beginning, this is aimed at FPS gamers, and with specs like that, you know, you are going to get some really good accurate results there. Also with these is they're fully adjustable on the software, so if you're going to be playing something else and you've got a certain preference, then that's something you can tweak there as well. Okay everyone, let's move over to software. So when we're looking at the software, we have the ASUS ROG Armoury 2. Now this is a really good bit of software. What I would like to say straight away is make sure that you go over to the ASUS website and download the latest version of the Armoury 2. If you already have Armoury installed, then make sure you go ahead and you go over here and check for updates. So when you open the software, and you can see straight away, really easy. You've got your mouse just here, you've got your Gladius 2 Origin just here, and anything else that you've got connected to the ASUS ecosystem. Now straight away underneath the mouse tab here, you can see that you have 3 profiles, and you can see next to profile 1 you've got DPI plus button 7, and then underneath that you've got DPI plus button 8 and plus button 3. So you do have 3 separate combinations of these buttons just here that you can press to quickly shift in and out of profiles. Now that's not just changing your DPI settings, that's changing the entire profile. So you can set up multiple macro systems, different even lighting effects or calibrations, different performance options, which of course does include the DPI as well. But that's a really nice feature, and I find it very quick to be able to maneuver and get around by just having to remember a couple of just button combinations here. So that's nice and easy, and you can set those, which is all good. So you can click over here and then you can link the program to whichever combination that you would like. So straight away underneath the mouse we've got the button tab. Now this has all your buttons. Of course you must have a left click, but right click you can change the functions of each of these other than the left button, which again is a really nice feature. Really simple, very intuitive, and I like it a lot. The overall design of the software, just backtracking a little bit, nice and clean, classic ASUS with that sort of nice grey theme that they have going on, and with some red accents. So you have all of your changeable buttons here. If you move over to performance, now obviously like I just said a second ago, this all applies to the different profiles, so I'm not going to go through each profile because essentially it's the same thing. You just click down here, make your changes, and then remember the button combination. So next to the button tab you have performance. Now as you can see, I like it around the sort of 4,500 mark for DPI, and then you've also got your DPI 2 setting, so you can have your click, and then now you've got it super slow, or you could have it the other way around. It's however you like. I really like the fact that this mouse just has one DPI setting, one DPI button, sorry, because then you can just switch between your 2 most used. Now for myself, I generally just stay around this one, but if I really need to, I've got that option. Now you've got angle snapping options here as well. You've got polling rate, which of course being an FPS mouse, you want to be setting to the highest polling rate, because that's gonna sort of tell the mouse to essentially read the mouse's actions a lot quicker. So for FPS games, you want the increased accuracy, you want it on the maximum. Now this is going to draw more power, but it's going to be far more responsive, which is great and exactly what you want for gaming. Now you also have button response time, and it's got quite a wide slider variety here. Again, I like just to have it working, you know, at its full potential, so being as quick as it possibly can. Now you do have acceleration and deceleration. Now I am not a fan of this if you've seen any of my other mouse reviews. However, I know some of you are, so you'll be pleased to see that you've got a very nice selection of acceleration curves and deceleration curves here. So you can play with that to your heart's content, nice and easy. And again, with the angle snapping, you can change it just as easy as that. So very simple. And if you mess anything up, you've got a nice default button here as well, so you can start from scratch, and it's as simple as just clicking the save button, and there you go. So we'll go over to lighting in a minute. We'll do that one last. So calibration here, nice and easy again. I mean, they've really made this as, you know, user friendly as possible, and I really do like that. I am a fan of ASUS, As you can see, I've got a couple of other items up here connected. So going over to calibration, you can enable surface calibration, which you would want to. I don't know why you would want it off, because you're going to get more precision this way. And that's even if you don't have any of the preset surfaces from ASUS, which I do. Again, I have the scabbard. So you can change this depending on if you know which one you have already, which is really nice. So you're gonna get that extra bit of performance because they've calibrated it for you essentially, which is brilliant. So again, you can click save, or you can manually do it. Now, most of you have probably seen this in mouse software before, and all you do is essentially move your mouse in a figure of 8 pattern across the entire size of your, you know, the area you'll be using your mouse on, and that will calibrate it to that surface. Now, obviously, I'm going to leave it just here like that. You have lift-off distance as well, which again is a nice feature because not everyone keeps that as an option. Above this row of tabs, you have your macro section. It's really simple. I mean, pretty much all macro sort of software is pretty much the same. So you can't really go wrong. If you use one, you've pretty much used them all. You can sync as well. So if I really wanted to, I could sync the RGB up between my Strix Flare keyboard here and the Origin 2, the Gladius 2 Origin. But I like to leave them off. I like to have them slightly different, but you do have that option, which again is nice. And you also have the stats. Now, I love this about the Armory 2 software. I don't really use it myself, but I think it's a great addition. So all you do is you hit record, and then whilst you're doing something, you can move around and you could do that kind of thing. And then over time, again, I don't really move my mouse very far, so my distance covered isn't going to be very far at all, because if you look from the bottom left to the top, I've only moved like a couple of centimeters really. But you have the option, so if you're playing a game and you want to see, you know, how many times you've, you know, shot your gun or anything like that, if you're in an FPS game, then you can do that. And then once you've stopped, you just press stop, and then it will show you your stats just here, which is brilliant. I think that's a great addition for the people that are going to want to use that. Now, moving over to the last bit, which will be the RGB section and the lighting, you've got some great options here. So ASUS have included some really nice features that are so easy to use. I can't say enough how easy this software is to use, but you have about 6 here: static, breathing, color cycle, reactive, wave, comet. And these are sort of, you know, your preset options, which are all adjustable. So you can adjust parameters here nice and easily. I like to use the color cycle. Hang on one second. No, I use the wave. That's what I use. And that's where the lights sort of wave across from, say, the right to the left or the left to the right. And thankfully, you can even choose which side it sort of starts and finishes from, which is a really nice feature as well. So you have that. You have a brightness setting, which again I think is brilliant, because not everyone wants their RGB super bright. Sometimes you want something a little bit subtle, and that's, you know, it does make a difference. You can see the difference. It's not, you know, change it and nothing happens. You really do see the difference there in those increments, which is nice. And you can have it at 0 and just be completely off if you don't want any of that RGB goodness to make your gaming performance better, because everybody knows RGB makes you a better player. So we also have next to this the speed setting. Now this is great, because at first I was like, do you really want to change the speed? But then when you look at how fast some of these are, like the wave in particular on fast is really, really quick. And it can be a little bit distracting. Now, it looks pretty cool if you're away from your desk, you know, and the lights are dim and all that kind of stuff. It looks pretty good to have a little rave on your desk there. But the normal speed is probably my favorite, and slow is nice and calm. You know, if you want to feel a bit more relaxed whilst you're gaming, you can do that. Whereas if you want to get amped up, then you can stick it on the fast, and that might help you there. So you have that as well. Now you also have the sync all areas section, and essentially you can turn this off or on, but you also have, if I turn it off, sorry, then you can individually change all of these parameters per the 3 changeable sections on the mouse, which is the logo, the scroll wheel, and then the base where it it sort of moves all the way around the base there. So you have that. I like to just keep it standard. Just a quick conclusion on the Armoury 2 software. I would say this is a positive for the mouse. It's really easy to use, and you know, it does the job as you would expect, and it looks nice, you know, at 1440p. It's not pixelated, it's a nice resolution here, and it's a nice size. It's you know, you can't really adjust the size of it, but it's nice and easy to use. And again, you do have your settings, so you can stop it from launching at the start and all that kind of stuff. So that's the software. So let's go over the conclusion here. Straight away with the pros, it fits the ASUS ecosystem. So if you're a fanboy or girl, then this definitely will look great with your rig. Now, I think it's stylish, it's got an ergonomic design, and it has really excellent build quality. So that's some pros as well. It's got a brilliant optical sensor, changeable switches, which is a massive plus because they even give you some spares, and even the cable options, despite the fact that they could have been slightly better there with both cables being the same length, having the options is definitely nice to see. Now, cons, it is expensive, it is directed at that prosumer market. Overall, I definitely think the ASUS ROG Gladius 2 Origin is a brilliant mouse. I would definitely recommend getting it if you're a fan of ASUS, and it does the job really well. So definitely check this one out. So after watching this review, will you be buying the ASUS ROG Gladius 2 Origin? Let us know down in the comments. And also, if you've enjoyed this review, hit the thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to check out our merchandise, then you can check it down below via Teespring. And if you want tech news daily, check out our website. Now, I've been Andy, this is Kit Guru, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.